My name is Esther Adebayo. I was born in Ibadan, Oyo State, and I grew up in a house where everybody thought we were a normal Christian family. My father was known in our area. My mother was respected. We attended church every Sunday at Bodija, and people trusted us. But behind that respect, behind the smiles, behind the good morning ma, and God bless you, I was already deep inside witchcraft. And today, I am not here to scare you. I'm not here to exaggerate. I'm here because many of you are fighting battles you don't understand, praying against enemies you have never met, while the real access point is sitting right beside you. Some of you are praying, God, remove my enemies. God, scatter my attackers. God, deliver me from witches. Yet the witchcraft working against you is not coming from a stranger in the village. It is coming through someone you trust, someone you laugh with, someone you eat with, someone who knows your full name, your birthday, your weakness, your prayer life, your habits. We used to laugh in the coven when Christians prayed aggressively but still kept the wrong people close. Because as long as we had familiar access, prayer alone was slow. Let me say something painful but true. The strongest witchcraft rarely comes directly. It comes through familiarity. We didn't need to fly at night to everyone. We didn't need to bury charms everywhere. We simply used people you already loved. Your friend, your cousin, your roommate, your church member, your business partner, sometimes your spouse. I know this because I was trained to do it. And the reason I am speaking now is because many of the attacks you call spiritual delay, repeated failure, almost breakthrough but never, or I don't know what is wrong with my life. Those were deliberate operations, planned, assigned, monitored. And the entry point was always someone familiar. I didn't wake up one day and decide to become a witch. I was recruited slowly. It started during my second year at the Polytechnic Ibadan around 2012. I was staying off campus at Abowo, sharing a room with a girl named Kemi Olatunji. Kemi was friendly, too friendly. She knew when I cried. She knew when I fasted. She knew when I was broke. She knew my prayer points. At that time, I thought she was just a caring friend. I didn't know she was already a monitor. One night, she said something that changed everything. Esther, you are too prayerful to be suffering like this. There are forces working against you. You need to understand how the world really works. That's how it always starts. Not with come and join witchcraft, but with concern. Concern is the bait. Later, she took me to a woman known as Mama Ronke in Apata, claiming she was a prayer warrior who helps people spiritually. That was my first initiation, disguised as help. From there, I was trained. And one of the first lessons they taught us was this: never attack directly when familiarity can do the job. Let me explain something that many Christians don't understand. In the spirit realm, access matters more than power. We didn't need to be stronger than your prayers. We just needed permission. And familiarity gives permission without resistance. When someone close to you sleeps in the same house, shares food with you, touches your belongings, knows your secrets, knows your schedule, knows when you are fasting or weak, they automatically lower your spiritual guard. That's when attacks become effective. We were taught to ask questions like, who knows their routine? Who do they listen to? Who do they trust emotionally? Who enters their room freely? Who eats their food? Who borrows their clothes? Who prays with them but doesn't live right? Once we identified that person, the operation was halfway complete. One of my earliest assignments involved a woman named Funke Adebola, a fashion designer in Abeokuta. She was hardworking, talented, prayerful, but her progress was strange. Every time she got close to success, something collapsed. The coven didn't assign me to attack her directly. Instead, they said, enter through Shola. Shola was her best friend since secondary school. They prayed together. They fasted together. They shared clothes. What Funke didn't know was that Shola had already been initiated years earlier through her aunt. Shola didn't hate Funke. That's the scary part. She liked her. But jealousy mixed with assignment is dangerous. Shola was instructed to do three things only. 1. Always be present during Funke's breakthrough moments. 2. Touch key items, design sketches, measuring tape, client books. 3. Constantly speak doubt disguised as concern. No charms, no incantations in Funke's house, just presence. Within 6 months, clients stopped paying. Contracts collapsed mysteriously. Her name was dragged without clear reason. And Funke kept praying harder, never suspecting the friend who cried with her. Family access is the strongest. Bloodline carries authority. I was involved in an assignment against a man named Samuel Okorie, living in Onitsha, a serious believer who prayed every midnight. We couldn't penetrate him directly, so the instruction was simple: use his younger cousin. That is how we use family. This one is heavy. The cousin lived with him, ate his food, handled his clothes. That was enough. We didn't need the cousin to know everything, just enough cooperation. That is why I am speaking now, because many of you are praying aggressively while still handing access to the enemy daily. The rule we lead by: access before power. Inside the coven, power was never the first question. The first question was always, who has access? Not who hates you, not who envies you openly, not who is obviously evil. but who can touch you without resistance? That is why witches fear isolation prayers less than discernment prayers. Because once access is cut, power weakens. I want you to understand something painful. Many of the people we used did not wake up planning to destroy you. Some of them were already wounded. Some were jealous but ashamed of it. Some felt inferior. Some were desperate. Some were simply spiritual careless. We exploited all of that. There was a prayer partner operation. There was a woman named Bisi Lawa living in Ikorodu, Lagos. She led early morning prayers in her church, very vocal, very respected. But her life never moved forward. We were assigned to delay her permanently, not destroy her, just keep her almost there. The instruction from the senior witch was clear. Do not fight her prayer life. Attach someone to it. We used her prayer partner, Auntie Murayo. Murayo was older, soft-spoken, always quoting scriptures. What BC didn't know was that Murayo had been initiated years earlier, after a failed marriage and financial collapse. Murayo was instructed to always pray last, closing sessions, suggest prayer points that sounded spiritual but redirected focus, introduce fasting schedules that weaken BC physically, lay hands during moments of emotional openness. No evil words were spoken openly, but spiritually, exchanges were happening. Every major breakthrough dream BC had was collected during prayer. This is why some of you feel drained after prayer meetings. There was also romantic access. This was very effective. Romantic relationships were one of our strongest tools. Love opens gates that fear never could. I personally handled an assignment involving a man named Daniel Mensah, a banker in Accra, Ghana. He was intelligent, disciplined, spiritually alert, so we didn't attack him. We sent comfort. A woman named Nana Aqua, who worked in the same building. She wasn't sent to seduce him sexually at first. She was sent to listen. Listen to his frustrations. Listen to his prayer requests. Listen to his childhood wounds. Within weeks, he trusted her. Within months, he confided things he never told his pastor. The instruction Nana received was simple. Never stop him from praying. Just make sure he prays confused. Soon, his dreams changed. His focus scattered. His confidence dropped. His discernment blurred. He thought it was stress, but spiritually, authority was leaking. We also use food, gifts, and daily contact. People think witchcraft always involves poison or charms. That's ignorance. Sometimes all we needed was shared food, borrowed clothes, a gift prayed over before giving, washing someone's plates, sleeping on the same bed. One time in Ife, we delayed a young man's admission for 4 years through a borrowed wristwatch. Nothing dramatic, just consistent contact. Churches were never had targets. We also use church insider. This one is dangerous. Not because God isn't there, but because familiarity reduces alertness. There was a pastor named Pastor Elijah Akinwale leading a growing ministry in Akure. We couldn't touch him, so we targeted the altar environment. The operation involved a choir member, a protocol sister, a media team volunteer. None of them were openly evil, but one sister, Ruth, was already spiritually compromised. Her assignment: never miss altar access. She handled microphones, touched the pulpit, arranged seats. That was enough. Within a year, strange misunderstandings, financial confusion, spiritual heaviness during sermons. The pastor thought it was spiritual warfare from outside, but the door was inside. Why deliverance sometimes fails? Let me say this carefully. Deliverance fails when access remains. We used to wait patiently. If someone went for deliverance, we observed who they returned to, who they shared testimonies with, who touched them immediately after. If the familiar door stayed open, the spirit returned quietly. That's why Jesus said, the last state can be worse than the first, not because prayer failed, but because wisdom didn't follow power. The signs we watch for: pay attention. We knew an operation was working when prayer became mechanical, dreams became unclear, discernment reduced, familiar people felt necessary, warnings were ignored, patterns repeated. Once we saw repetition, we relaxed. Why I am speaking now? I didn't leave witchcraft because life suddenly got good. I left because truth caught up with me. I saw people destroyed who never knew the source. I saw sincere Christians blame themselves unnecessarily. I saw destiny slowed, not because of sin, but because of unchecked familiarity. The last thing we did is monitor after deliverance. There is something many people don't know. Deliverance was never the end for us. It was often the beginning of another phase. When someone went for prayers, night vigils, mountains, crusades, or prophetic sessions, we didn't panic. We watched. Because the question was never, did they get prayed for? The real question was, who did they go back to? Who hugged them first? Who slept beside them that night? Who they shared the testimony with? Who touched them while celebrating? Familiarity reopens doors faster than sin sometimes. I remember one case clearly. After deliverance, the same door, there was a young woman named Janet Obinna living in Asaba Delta State. She had suffered spiritual attacks for years: dream marriages, stagnation, fear. She finally went for deliverance at a prayer mountain in Agolo. She came back glowing, confident, free. We knew it. We felt it. The Spirit led. But 2 days later, she returned to her apartment and hugged her roommate, Ngozi, tightly, crying. Ngozi had been the access point all along. That hug was enough. Not because Ngozi hugged her, but because spiritual permission was restored. Within weeks, the dreams returned, and Janet blamed herself. That was what hurt me the most. Let me say this slowly. Some of the people we use were not evil masterminds. They were emotionally wounded, spiritually careless, jealous but silent, curious but undisciplined, familiar but undiscerning. But in the spirit realm, ignorance does not cancel consequences. Witchcraft doesn't always need hatred. It just needs access without discernment. Inside the coven, we had a saying, they love their chains because they look like relationships. Some people would rather stay bound than be alone. They ignore warnings. They silence conviction. They explain away patterns. So we waited. Time favors patience. I didn't leave witchcraft because I was attacked. I left because I saw the end of the road. One night during a gathering of witches, a senior witch she said something that froze me. You see, all these people you are delaying, most of them will never know why. They will die blaming themselves. That night, I couldn't sleep. For the first time, I realized something terrifying. We weren't just attacking destinies, we were stealing understanding. And when truth is stolen, repentance becomes difficult. That was the night I cried out, not for power, but for mercy. What finally saved me was not fear. It wasn't punishment, it was exposure. Light destroys witchcraft faster than confrontation. When God began to expose the familiar doors in my own life, I saw it clearly. I had been surrounded by people who loved me, but not enough to want me free, and I had allowed it. That realization broke me. This is my final warning to you. If you are listening to this and thinking, why does this keep happening to me? Why do I always almost succeed? Why do I feel spiritually drained around certain people? Why do patterns repeat? Please hear me. Check familiarity before checking enemies. Witchcraft thrives where discernment is silent. Not everyone close to you is sent to destroy you, but not everyone close to you should have access. Love does not require spiritual blindness. I won't tell you to cut everyone off. That is not wisdom. But I will tell you this. Guard your inner life. Be selective with intimacy. Watch patterns, not words. Pray for discernment, not suspicion. Learn when to love from a distance. Some doors don't need prayer, they need closure. My name is Esther Adebayo. I was deep in witchcraft. I used familiarity as a weapon. I participated in operations that delayed destinies. And I am speaking now so that you don't keep fighting the wrong battles. This is where my confession ends. Not with fear, but with truth. Because once truth enters, witchcraft loses its hiding place. And what is exposed can no longer operate freely.